Have you ever wondered why every small town in America has a story nobody dares to tell? A tale whispered from one generation to the next, a shadow that never quite fades with the morning sun. From the rustling cornfields of the Midwest, where figures are said to walk between the rows on moonless nights, to the desolate desert highways of the Southwest, where ghostly apparitions flag down cars that never stop. This nation is a tapestry woven with threads of fear. Every quiet suburb, every forgotten back road, every creaking old house holds a secret, a dark corner of history that refuses to be forgotten. This isn't just about things that go bump in the night. It's about the unsettling truth that our world is layered with stories we can't explain. Curses carried on the wind from ancient burial grounds, creatures of folklore said to stalk the deep woods, and the chilling echoes of tragedies that stain the very land we walk upon. These are the legends born from a kernel of truth, nurtured by fear, and passed down as cautionary tales to keep us from straying too far into the dark. Tonight, we peel back the veneer of normalcy to explore the chilling reality that lurks just beneath the surface. We will journey into the heart of America, as nightmares tend myths and horror stories so deeply embedded in our culture that they feel disturbingly real. These tales are more than just campfire stories. They are a part of our collective consciousness, a reminder that some doors are best left unopened. So, turn off the lights and keep your doors locked, because these tales are closer than you think. Number 10. The Mothman in Point Pleasant, West Virginia. In 1966, the sleepy town of Point Pleasant, West Virginia, became the hunting ground of something unearthly, a man-shaped creature with a 10-foot wingspan and glowing red eyes. The Mothman. It all began on a cold November night when two young couples were driving near the abandoned TNT area, a former World War II munitions plant. Their headlights cut through the darkness and landed on a pair of hypnotic, crimson eyes attached to a gray, winged figure standing nearly 7 feet tall. Panic set in. They floored the gas pedal, speeding away down the rural road, but the creature gave chase. It effortlessly kept pace with their car, which was reportedly traveling at over 100 miles per hour. Its piercing shrieks terrified occupants. They only escaped when they reached the town's limits, where the creature finally veered off and disappeared into the night. Over the next 13 months, the phenomenon exploded. More than 100 different residents of Point Pleasant reported their own chilling encounters. Firefighters saw it perched on rooftops. Others claimed it swooped down over their cars, its leathery wings casting a monstrous shadow. Strange lights were seen in the sky, and mysterious men in black suits were said to be visiting witnesses, warning them to stay silent. The town was gripped by a mixture of fear and fascination. Was this a misidentified bird, a government experiment gone wrong, or something far more sinister? For over a year, locals reported these sightings, car chases, and terrifying screams from the sky. Then, on December 15, 1967, tragedy struck. The Silver Bridge, the town's main artery connecting West Virginia to Ohio, buckled and collapsed into the icy waters of the Ohio River during rush hour traffic. 46 people lost their lives in the disaster. In the aftermath, the Mothman sightings abruptly stopped. Was Mothman a demon or an omen? Some investigators believe the creature was trying to alert the town to the impending structural failure of the bridge. Others think it was the cause, a harbinger of doom drawn to the energy of the coming catastrophe. To this day, the truth remains buried with the victims of that tragic collapse. Witnesses still say they saw his red eyes in the sky just before disaster. Would you look up if you heard wings over your car at night? Number 9. The Bell Witch Adams, Tennessee, in the early 1800s. Deep in the quiet farmlands of Robertson County, Tennessee, a darkness took root in the home of the Bell family. It began subtly, with strange sounds echoing in the fields, the clicking of tongues, the rustling of unseen animals. But soon, this presence moved inside, and the family's life descended into a living nightmare. They were being tormented by something unseen, an entity that would come to be known across America as the Bell Witch. The activity escalated from simple noises to outright physical violence. The entity whispered, it clawed at the walls, and it screamed through their modest farmhouse. It pulled blankets off the children as they slept and left welts and bruises on their skin. The primary targets of this relentless torment were the family patriarch, John Bell Sr., and his youngest daughter, Betsy. The witch seemed to take a sadistic pleasure in their suffering, its disembodied voice mocking them, cursing them, and filling their home with an aura of pure malevolence. Unlike many hauntings, this entity spoke with chilling clarity. It held conversations with the family and their visitors, demonstrating an uncanny knowledge of their lives and local gossip. It even gave itself a name, Kate. Kate the Witch proclaimed a deep-seated hatred for John Bell, vowing to see him dead. The entity tormented him mercilessly, causing him to suffer from fits and seizures. In 1820, John Bell collapsed and died. The family found a strange vial near his bed, and when they gave a drop to the cat, it died instantly. The witch's voice then filled the room, cackling that it had given John a big dose of that last night. The legend of the bell, which grew so powerful that it attracted the attention of a future president. A young General Andrew Jackson, intrigued by the tales, supposedly gathered a group of men to investigate the farm. But as they approached the property, their wagon mysteriously stopped, unable to be moved by any force. After his men were tormented through the night, a terrified Jackson is said to have declared, "I would rather face the entire British army than to spend another night with the Bell Witch." He and his men fled the farm at first light. After John Bell's death, the witch's presence began to fade, but it never truly left. It promised to return, and many believe its spirit retreated to a nearby cave on the Bell property. To this day, the area is considered one of the most haunted places in America. Visitors to the Bell Witch Cave report strange phenomena, disembodied whispers, shadowy figures, and the chilling sound of a woman's laughter echoing from the deep, dark recesses of the earth. Some even claim to feel the touch of an icy hand in the darkness, a reminder that Kate's malevolent spirit is never far. Would you step inside the Bell Witch Cave? Number 8. The Jersey Devil in Pine Barrens, New Jersey. In 1735, a woman known as Mother Leeds cursed her 13th child and gave birth to the Jersey Devil. The story begins in the heart of the sprawling, desolate pine barrens of southern New Jersey. A struggling mother with 12 children already under her roof and another on the way looked to the stormy skies and screamed a desperate curse. "Let the devil take this one." As the legend goes, the devil answered. On a tempestuous night, she gave birth not to a human child, but to a grotesque creature with bat wings, a goat's head, and hooves for feet. It shrieked and vanished into the pine barrens. The newborn monstrosity unfurled its leathery wings, let out a piercing cry that drowned out the thunder, and flew up the chimney, disappearing into the dark, tangled wilderness that would become its domain. The midwife present that night was said to have never recovered from the shock, her testimony marking the first of countless chilling encounters. For centuries, it's been blamed for livestock killings, eerie footprints, and blood-curdling screams in the forest. Reports surged in the early 20th century, particularly during one terrifying week in January 1909. Panic gripped the Delaware Valley as the creature was sighted by thousands from Trenton to Philadelphia. It was seen attacking a trolley car, leaving behind cloven hoofprints on rooftops, and terrifying citizens who dared to venture out after dark. Schools closed, and mills shut down as workers refused to travel through the woods. Even respected figures reported encounters. Joseph Bonaparte, Napoleon's elder brother, claimed to have seen the creature while hunting in the barrens. Throughout the years, experienced hunters and lawmen have found unidentifiable tracks and heard unearthly wails echoing through the dense pines, sounds that defy any known animal. Farmers would find their livestock mutilated, not for food, but as if by a malevolent force. The woods themselves seemed to hold a perpetual sense of dread, a place where the shadows move on their own. Locals still say, if you hear a cry that's not quite human, it's the devil of New Jersey. Number 7. Skinwalkers in Navajo Nation, Southwest. In Navajo legend, there are witches who wear the skins of animals called skinwalkers. They are figures of immense fear, shamans who have chosen a path of corruption, trading their humanity for dark, supernatural power. This isn't a simple fairy tale whispered to frighten children. Too many in the Navajo Nation. This is a chilling and respected reality. The process of becoming a skinwalker is said to involve the most heinous of acts, a taboo so profound it is rarely spoken of, the murder of a close relative. This ultimate betrayal severs their connection to balance and harmony, opening a gateway to forbidden magic. Once the path is chosen, they gain the ability to shapeshift, to cloak themselves in the hide of another creature. They take the forms of wolves or coyotes, loping along desolate highways at impossible speeds, their forms flickering between man and beast in the distant glow of headlights. They are known to appear as bears or owls, their presence a terrible omen. They peer through the windows of isolated homes with glowing, unnatural eyes, their gaze filled with malevolence. Sometimes they don't just mimic animals, crow the voices of loved ones, a cruel trick to lure victims out into the cold, dark desert night. The skinwalkers' motivations are born of spite, envy, and a lust for chaos. They inflict pain, spread disease, and sow discord. Their powers are not limited to shape-shifting. They are masters of curses, capable of projecting projectiles of cursed bone and human hair into their victims, causing slow, agonizing sickness and death. They can read minds, control thoughts, and move with a silence that defies the laws of nature. Speaking their name is said to draw their attention. The Navajo word, Y-E-E, Naldlushi**, which translates to with it. He goes on all fours, is spoken with caution, and almost never after dark. Even now, strange encounters on remote desert roads are blamed on them. Unexplained livestock mutilations, shadowy figures glimpsed at the edge of a property. The sound of scratching on a roof in the dead of night hall are potential signs that a skinwalker is near. Encounters are a deeply personal and terrifying ordeal, often leaving witnesses paralyzed with a fear that lingers for a lifetime. Would you dare whisper skinwalker after midnight? Number 6. Bloody Mary in every mirror in America. Bloody Mary, Bloody Mary. Every American child knows that dare say her name 3 times into a mirror in the dark, and she'll appear. It's a rite of passage, a sleepover tradition whispered from one generation to the next. The details might shift, but the core terror remains the same. You stand in a darkened bathroom, the only light from a single flickering candle. Your heart pounds against your ribs as you stare into your own reflection, chanting the forbidden name into the glass. The origins of this terrifying phantom are as murky as the mirrors she is said to haunt. Who is she? Some say she was a queen, Mary I of England, forever stained by the blood of the Protestants. She executed her tormented spirit, now trapped between worlds. Others spin a more local, more intimate tale, that of Mary Worth, a beautiful woman hideously disfigured in a car accident, or a witch executed centuries ago. Her vengeful spirit seeking retribution against the living. In some versions of the legend, she is a grieving mother, her children taken from her, and she appears weeping, or worse, seeks to steal a child to replace her own. The method of summoning her varies too. Sometimes it's one chant, sometimes 13, sometimes you must spin in place. But the outcome is always promised to be horrifying. Believers and survivors of the ritual share chilling accounts. They speak of mirrors fogging over for no reason, of the candle flame extinguishing on its own, plunging them into absolute darkness. They describe a sudden, bone-deep cold that fills the room, and the faint, unmistakable scent of decay. Then the whispers begin. Some hear their own name called from an unseen source, while others hear a woman weeping softly, a sound that slowly builds into a gut-wrenching scream. And then, if you are truly unlucky, she appears, a shadowy figure materializing in the mirror just over your shoulder. Her face is said to be a pale, gaunt mask of fury and sorrow, her eyes either hollow sockets or burning with an unholy light. Those who have seen her and lived to tell the tale are forever changed, haunted by the face in the glass. They say she might reach out from the mirror to scratch you, to pull you in, or to simply show you a vision so horrifying it drives you mad. Are you brave enough to test the legend tonight? Find a mirror, light a candle, and say her name. She's waiting. Number 5. Slender Man and the Internet's First Monster. He doesn't come from folklore, he comes from pixels. Born in a 2009 something awful forum thread, the Slender Man was nothing more than a few photoshopped images and a bit of creepy text. The creator, Eric Knudsen, simply wanted to insert a paranormal entity into mundane photographs to spook forum readers. He depicted a tall, unnaturally thin figure in a black suit, with a featureless white face. The captions were vague, alluding to missing children and mysterious fires. Little did he know, he was planting the seeds for the digital age's first great campfire story. What began as a simple creative exercise quickly spiraled into a collaborative mythos. Other users began adding their own stories, drawings, and even video series, most famously Marble Hornets, Slender Man became the digital boogeyman, a silent predator who lurked in the woods, stalked children, and drove his victims to madness. His mythology grew more complex with each new contribution. He could teleport, cause slender sickness, and had tendrils that emerged from his back. He wasn't a legend passed down through generations. He was a legend being built in real time across screens and servers worldwide. He was the perfect monster for the internet age, viral, ever-changing, and inescapable. But the line between digital horror and reality began to blur in the most terrifying way imaginable. In 2014, the story took a dark real-world turn in Waukesha, Wisconsin. Two 12-year-old girls, Anissa Weyer and Morgan Geyser, lured their friend into the woods and stabbed her 19 times. When questioned by police, they claimed they were trying to become proxies for the Slender Man, believing they had to commit a murder to prove their loyalty to him and protect their families from his wrath. The victim miraculously survived, but the incident sent a shockwave across America. It was a brutal wake-up call, demonstrating how an online fiction could infect young minds and manifest into real-world violence. The Slender Man case forced a national conversation about the internet's influence, moral panics, and the fragile nature of belief in the digital era. He is more than just a spooky story. He is a stark reminder that the monsters we create online don't always stay confined to our screens. He's proof that myths don't die, adapt, and sometimes they cross over into our world with devastating consequences. What happens when imagination becomes real? Number 4. The Wendigo in the northern forests. In the icy woods of the Great Lakes and Canada, the Algonquian people have long feared a malevolent spirit born from the harshest winters. A creature of insatiable hunger and greed known only as the Wendigo. It appears as a gaunt, decaying figure towering over the tallest trees with skin stretched thin over a skeletal frame. Its eyes glow like embers in the frozen dark, and its lips are shredded away to reveal long, yellowed fangs. It was once human, they say, but driven by desperation to commit the ultimate taboo, cannibalism. This act forever cursed them, transforming them into a monstrous embodiment of starvation. The legend speaks of a terrible paradox. The more the Wendigo consumes, the larger it grows, and the larger it grows, the more ravenous its hunger becomes. It is a cycle of eternal famine, an emptiness that can never be filled. Its very presence is said to bring with it the biting frost of an unnatural winter, a chill that seeps not just into the air, but into the very bones of those who feel it. Its cry, carried on the wind, is a mournful shriek that can drive a person to madness. For centuries have been told around crackling fires, warning of its predatory nature. It is a patient hunter, stalking its victims through the deep snow, its shadowy form flitting between the ancient pines. It can mimic human voices, luring the lost and unwary deeper into the wilderness with false calls for help. Once you are in its territory, escape is nearly impossible. The forest itself seems to conspire against you, the trails vanishing, the familiar landmarks shifting. These are not just old tales meant to scare children. Reports from early settlers, fur trappers, and explorers documented encounters with what they could only describe as a terrifying, giant-like entity in the woods. They wrote of entire native villages found deserted with signs of a struggle, but no bodies. and stories of lone hunters going mad with something they called Wendigo fever, a sudden violent psychosis accompanied by an intense craving for human flesh. Even now, as modern towns push against the edges of these ancient forests, the fear remains. Experienced hunters and hikers vanish without a trace in the blinding snow, their tracks simply stopping as if they were plucked from the earth. Locals in remote communities share hushed stories of eerie whispers in the blizzard and towering figures glimpsed at the edge of the tree line. In the deep, cold heart of the North American wilderness, some things are best left undisturbed. And when the winter wind howls through the empty woods, the people listen and they whisper, "The Wendigo walks again." Number 3. The Lalaurie Mansion in New Orleans, Louisiana. Behind the beauty of New Orleans hides one of its darkest tales, the Lalaurie Mansion. This infamous residence on Royal Street stands as a grim monument to unspeakable cruelty. A place where the vibrant energy of the French Quarter gives way to a chilling, heavy silence. In the early 1830s, the mansion belonged to Dr. Louis Lalaurie and his wife, the prominent socialite Madame Delphine Lalaurie. To the public, Delphine was the epitome of grace and sophistication, hosting lavish parties that were the talk of the town. But behind the closed doors of her opulent home, a far more sinister reality was unfolding. Madame Lalaurie,'s charm was a mask for a monstrous cruelty she inflicted upon the enslaved people who served her household. Whispers and rumors circulated among the neighbors about her mistreatment, but the full extent of her depravity remained a horrifying secret. The truth was catastrophically revealed on the night of April 10th, 1834. A fire broke out in the mansion's kitchen, and when townspeople rushed to help, they made a ghastly discovery. In a locked attic chamber, they found several enslaved individuals, brutally tortured and chained in grotesque positions, some having endured unimaginable experiments for months. The scene was so horrific that it incited a mob. As enraged citizens descended upon the mansion, destroying its fine furnishings, Delphine Lalaurie slipped away into the chaos. She fled to Paris, escaping justice, and was never seen in New Orleans again. Since that day, the mansion has been a hotbed of paranormal activity. Subsequent owners have been driven out by inexplicable events and financial ruin. Visitors and passers-by frequently report hearing agonizing screams and moans echoing from the empty building, the sound of chains rattling in the dead of night, and the ghostly apparitions of tormented souls appearing in the windows. Some have even claimed to feel the malevolent presence of Madame Lalaurie herself, her cruel spirit still lingering in the hallways. They say evil never really leaves, it just changes owners. Number 2. Resurrection Mary in Chicago, Illinois. In Chicago, a lonely stretch of road called Archer Avenue is home to one of America's most famous ghosts. For nearly a century, drivers have told the same chilling story. The tale of a phantom hitchhiker known only as Resurrection Mary. The legend begins on a dark, desolate night. A man is driving alone, the city lights fading in his rearview mirror. Suddenly, his headlights catch a figure on the side of the road. It's a young woman, shockingly out of place in the dead of night. She's beautiful, with blonde hair and blue eyes, and she's wearing a delicate white party dress. She looks lost and desperate for a ride. The driver, concerned for her safety, pulls over. The woman quietly gets in, her presence filling the car with an unnerving chill. She asks asks for a ride, her voice soft and melancholic. She rarely says much, sometimes mentioning she was at a dance at the O. Henry Ballroom, a popular spot that has since burned down. The driver, though unsettled, agrees to take her where she needs to go. They drive in an eerie silence down Archer Avenue. The woman simply points ahead, directing him toward a large retiring gate looming in the distance. As the car approaches the entrance to Resurrection Cemetery, the driver turns to ask her where to drop her off. But she is no longer there. The passenger seat is empty. The door never opened. She has simply vanished into thin air. Some drivers report a more terrifying encounter. They claim she asks them to stop, gets out of the car, and walks directly through the locked cemetery gates before disappearing among the tombstones. Over the decades, dozens of credible witnesses, including police officers and cab drivers, have reported picking up the mysterious woman. Many claim to have touched her hand, describing it as unnaturally, shockingly cold as death. There are even reports of handprints scorched into the cemetery gates and sightings of a ghostly figure dancing alone within its walls. The most common theory links the ghost to Mary Bregovy, a young woman killed in a car accident on Archer Avenue in the 1930s after a night of dancing. She was buried in Resurrection Cemetery wearing a white dress. Is it her spirit forever trying to complete her final journey home? Or is it something else entirely? A specter forever bound to that lonely road? Would you stop for Mary? Number 1. The Amityville Horror in New York. In the quiet suburban town of Amityville on Long Island sits a large Dutch colonial house at 112 Ocean Avenue. For years, it was just another home, but in the early hours of November 13, 1974, that all changed. 23-year-old Ronald DeFeo Jr. took a high-powered rifle and systematically murdered his entire family as they slept, his parents, 2 brothers, and 2 sisters. The brutality of the crime sent shockwaves through the community, leaving a dark stain on the house's history. DeFeo Jr. was convicted, but his motives remained a subject of intense debate, with him claiming that voices in the house had commanded him to kill. Just over a year later, in December 1975, the Lutz family, George, Kathy, and their 3 children believed they had found their dream home. They purchased the infamous house for a bargain price, fully aware of its tragic past. They even had a priest come to bless the home on the day they moved in. However, the priest reportedly felt an unseen hand slap him and heard a booming voice command him to get out. He later developed a high fever and blisters on his hands, a chilling premonition of what was to come. The Lutz family's dream quickly descended into a living nightmare. They reported a series of terrifying and inexplicable events that grew more intense with each passing day. The house was plagued by swarms of flies, even in the dead of winter. Strange cold spots would appear and disappear without reason, and mysterious foul odors would drift through the rooms. Kathy Lutz began having vivid nightmares about the murders and discovered the same order in which the DeFeo family was killed. George started waking up at 3:15 a.m. every morning, the estimated time of the DeFeo murders, feeling an overwhelming, icy chill. The paranormal activity escalated dramatically. The family reported hearing phantom footsteps and disembodied voices echoing through the halls. Walls were said to ooze a strange black slime, and crucifixes would turn upside down on their own. Most terrifyingly, they claimed to see glowing red eyes staring in from the windows and the spectral image of a demonic, pig-like creature. Their youngest daughter, Missy, even developed an imaginary friend named Jody, a malevolent entity that left giant hoof prints in the snow. After just 28 days, the Lutz family could take no more. They fled the house in the middle of the night, leaving all of their belongings behind, claiming the demonic forces within were too powerful and had become a direct threat to their lives. The story became a media sensation, spawning a best-selling book and a blockbuster film franchise that has terrified audiences for decades. It ignited a fierce debate between believers and skeptics. Paranormal investigators Ed and Lorraine Warren validated the family's claims, capturing a now famous photograph of what appears to be a ghostly boy peeking from a doorway. Critics, however, argue that the entire story was an elaborate hoax, a scheme concocted by the Lutzes and their lawyer to profit from the home's gruesome history. They point to inconsistencies in the family's accounts and a lack of physical evidence. Was it all real, a genuine case of a house possessed by a malevolent spirit born from a horrific tragedy? Or did the weight of the Defile murders and the power of suggestion create a haunting entirely within their own minds? Would you dare sleep one night in Amityville? From haunted highways to figures that flicker in the dark, America's ghost stories are as endless as the roads that cross it. Whether born from tragedy, folklore, or something that truly defies explanation, each tale whispers of a world just beyond our own. Which story sent a shiver down your spine? Let me know in the comments. And remember, every legend begins with someone who swore it really happened.